like to call the caucus to order. First piece of legislation from Finance Committee for emergency passage and an ordinance authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement with Creative Microsystems, Inc. to provide the Village of Lordstown with updated data processing equipment and also provide professional services required for the installation, maintenance, support, and conversion of the same and declaring an emergency. Comments?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to see this passed tonight.
Any other comments? Next, from Finance Committee for the second reading. The next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces are for second reading to put land in an agricultural district. Any comments or questions on those? Next, from Finance Committee for emergency passage, an ordinance repealing Ordinance 34, 2014, authorizing the clerk to make the following transfer back from the Utility Deposit Trust Fund into the Utility Fund and declaring an emergency. Comments?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to see this passed tonight also.
Any comment? Other comments? Hearing none, from Streets, Sidewalks, Public Parks, Buildings, Grounds, and General Improvement Committee for emergency passage, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement with CT Consultants to provide engineering services for the lighting efficiency improvements for select village facility light fixtures and declaring an emergency. Comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the committee would love to see this passed tonight also.
Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, next from Finance for emergency passage, an ordinance authorizing the clerk of the Village of Lordstown to pay the sum of $37,770.36 to the Lordstown Board of Education pursuant to an income tax sharing agreement the Village of Lordstown has enacted with the Lordstown Board of Education to share income taxes generated from employees of Anderson DeVos, Inc. and declaring an emergency. Comments?
Yes, Mayor, I'd also like to see this piece of legislation passed tonight.
Okay, any other comments? Next, from the Finance Committee for emergency passage, an ordinance authorizing the clerk of the Village of Lordstown to pay the sum of $31,857.16 to the Lordstown Board of Education pursuant to the income tax sharing agreement the Village of Lordstown has enacted with the Lordstown Board of Education to share income taxes generated from new employees of Interior Magna Seating of America, Inc. and declaring an emergency. Comments?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to see this piece of legislation passed also.
Okay, the last one from Council as a whole for emergency passage, an ordinance authorizing the Village of Lordstown to settle a pending dispute with Jody Ciriello in connection with the East Side Sanitary Sewer Project and declaring an emergency. Comments? I believe we will be having an executive session. We'll call briefly to inform Council of all the actions which took place last week. Any other comments on that? Are there any questions on the minutes in front of you for approval? Hearing none, are there any questions on the bills? Hearing none, is there anything else the Council would like to discuss at this time before we adjourn the caucus?
Yes, Mayor, there's one thing that I'd like to talk a little bit on. Bob, if you don't care, I think this...
Go ahead.
The Utility Committee had a meeting last week, I think it was, and we had Chris come in, and there was concerns about the utilities on the east side and whether this proposed power plant, whether they would be too much for our utility systems over there. But Chris has given us a little bit of a estimate here on what things would be for him to do some studies. But after getting the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting, I have to think twice about us spending very much money like this on these studies, because if you read the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting, when different residences went to the microphone and they asked particular questions, one of them was about the water, and Mr. Siderowitz's answer was that they don't really need water. So, I mean, and then the same thing was asked about the sewage, and he said that they have procedures that they put it into some kind of a thing and it's boiled down and evaporated and they haul the solids away. So I don't know whether it's justified for us to spend too much money. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a study as to what does Fremont's facility. We asked, you know, maybe we could have Chris get a hold of the engineer and see what they are, an accurate figure, putting in the sewer. If we could get a calculation of, like, we've got 300 residents on the sewer right now with the Imperial Mobile Park hooking up, that would be close to 600. And then with the I&I, we have to factor that in. If he could tell us how much capacity we still have left on our east side or something, and, you know, just something minor like that, I don't have a problem with. But for us to spend anywhere near the amount of money that's in this packet right here, when it's really not leverage to use against whether or not this facility comes to that location or not, I just can't see us spending that money right now.
Any other comments to John's remarks?
Yes, Mr. Seidowitz indicated that the reason they would be using the sewage is because it was more expensive to build the other system to completely evaporate it and go haul solid waste away, was my understanding of it. Okay. It indicates that he is considering definitely using our sewage. I didn't hear the part about he doesn't need water.
Yes.
How's he going to get water then?
He doesn't need water to cool the facility. It was in Mr.
Oh, he could use air to air.
It was in Mr. Coach's question, and then
Right.
the answer back was they don't need water either if they don't have, you know, if they can't.
Again, there was a considerable increase in cost of building if they went with air cooling.
No, I'm not going to dispute either one of them, but I just can't see us spending a lot of money on a
Well-
study that isn't really leverage. We don't have any leverage to stop.
I would hate to see if the village is seriously considering putting this facility in, to have it go in, at which point we would find that we needed possibly to run water lines, sewer lines, and remodel pump stations. I'm not saying that we want to put $32,500 to max in it. I don't see the attached fee schedule here to have any idea how expensive it is and at what point we probably want to board. You want to say something, Chris?
I can answer a lot of these questions to keep the meeting going in the report for the engineers if you'd like, or if I can answer them right now.
Do it when we're on the record. That way there's a record and the people can hear, you know, in case a lot of people do read the minutes online.
Okay.
And it's a lot of times, you know, it's a lot easier if they actually read the actual minutes, so that way, you know, it keeps the rumor mill down to a minimum.
Okay.
Could I ask Chris a question now?
Sure.
Chris, would it be very much to do a smaller study like I'm saying where you would
That's
get
what I want to get to.
You get a hold of it? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll let you have your time.
I want to say that during
Yeah.
the...
I mean, just so that we have, I understand, I agree with what Mr. Bond's saying. I'm not arguing with him. We're discussing up there, but there is a concern on our utilities, a definite one.
I totally understand.
All right.
Okay, anything else council wants to discuss? Hearing none, caucus is adjourned. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Lordstown Village Council meeting. If you please stand and join me for the Lord's Prayer and Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So if I could have roll call, please.
Mayor Hill.
Present.
Mr. Vaughn.
Here.
Mr. Mansell.
Present.
Mr. Radcliffe.
Present.
Mrs. Jones.
Present.
Mr. Shealy.
Present.
Mr. Reader.
Present.
Clerk White, present. Treasurer George Evelyn.
Here.
Solicitor Paul Dutton.
Present.
Police Chief Brent Milhone.
Here.
Fire Chief Travis Eastham.
Here.
Parks Building Ground and Street Commissioner Dale Grimm.
Present.
Recreation Marty Gibson.
Here.
Board of Public Affairs.
Present.
Municipal Engineer Chris John.
Present. Okay, there's one piece of legislation which I believe council should be brought up to date on before we meet, go into the regular meeting. So I'll entertain a motion for an executive session. It won't be long. Mayor, solicitor, council, Mr. Blank, for pending litigation. So moved. Moved by Ron, second? Second. Second by Mr. Shealy. Comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Mansell?
Yes.
Mr. Reader?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Radka?
Yes.
Mr. Shealy?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays, motion carried. We won't be long, folks.
Where'd they go? Where are they going in there?
Somebody's sewing them.
Oh, somebody's sewing them. That is disgusting.
Okay, council is now back in session. Under adoption of the agenda in the caucus, I had read a last piece of legislation which was not in the public packet because we had to have a discussion about it, so I will entertain a motion by council to amend the agenda to add an ordinance authorizing the village of Lordstown to settle a pending dispute with Jody Siriello in the connection with the East Side Sewer Project and declaring an emergency.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Mr. Reader, second by Mrs. Jones. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I'll entertain a motion for adoption of the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Moved by Bond, second by Jones. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I'll entertain a motion for disposal of the minutes of the regular meeting held April 21st, 2014.
So moved.
Moved by Mansell, second.
Second.
Second by Shealy. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Entertain a motion for payment of the bills.
So moved.
Moved by Radka, second.
Second.
Second by Shealy. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Mayor's report. Excuse me. You should have in your box appointments for summer help positions, and also to accept a letter from a firefighter who's on military leave to have, and also to have him taken off, and also have the 2 others as put on as junior firefighters. It was recommended by the fire chief. The next planning commission meeting will be next Monday evening at 6:30, and I'm sure we'll have another packed house for that. And also, we've had a lot of dialogue with Kunkel. There's a lot of other governmental entities. Due to the fact that we did have $250,000 allocated in the governor's budget for that project, and due to the fact that we do have some space there has been a lot more interest. So I think that once we finally get the title, we've done everything. Right now we're just waiting for the paperwork to work its way up the ladder down in Louisville at the Army Corps of Engineers, and hopefully in the next month to 6 weeks we will actually have title of the Kunkel Reserve Base. And that's it for the mayor's report. Is there a clerk's report this evening?
No report, Mayor.
Is there a solicitor's report?
No report.
Is there a treasurer's report?
No report.
Okay, Board of Trustees of Public Affairs report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have a special meeting coming up this Wednesday at 3 p.m. here.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for John?
Special meeting, what's it about, John?
That's for some special resolutions for the Commerce Center water line move, as well as a working session with Imperial on the getting started on the connection.
Okay, any other questions for John? Okay, Village Engineers report. Chris, you got the floor.
Okay, real quick, on the proposal that I passed out to each one of you, I stated that that was the quickest I could get it to you from last Thursday, and that's a follow-up from the Utilities Committee meeting we attended last Thursday, in which it was described that Mr. Bond had requested a proposal for evaluating the village's infrastructure relative to water and sewer for the proposed power plant. Again, that's in its draft form. Take a look at it, review it. All we could do was provide you what the full scope of work would be relative to water and sewer for evaluating it, recommending options and things like that in order to serve that facility. Now, as John had stated, Mr. Mansell had stated that yes, it would be in the best interest of the village if we could find out some of this information and feed that to you in a real-time basis, such as follow-up and data from the energy developer for things like, How much water are you asking for? How much wastewater are you going to be producing? Things like that we would need to know right away, and we would let you know of that. Now, in the event that he says we don't need any water and we're not going to produce any wastewater, it's end of story, end of game. There's really nothing else to do. So, but if there is, it's all in all likelihood, based on what I had heard, they're going to need some water to run those turbines. So in that regard, there are 2 locations that we're talking about in the village that may be able to serve that. And using those 2 locations, we could model the existing water service, our system, and the existing wastewater system. So that's why you see what you see in front of you there. And if you look, it goes in from the order of least invasive to more detailed work. So that if we do learn something right up front, we're going to let you know of that information right then and there, and not proceed any further until you've had a chance to review that. That's the whole purpose of the structure of that proposal. And again, it's in its draft form. I'm not expecting any kind of approval from you tonight. Just review it, please, and let me know what you want to do, what service you want, and we'll provide it. Are there any questions after that?
Any questions for Chris?
Yes, you'll get us, I presume, an attached fee schedule.
Yeah, I didn't want to pass, I don't like passing that out to just anybody.
I understand that.
So,
Any other questions for Chris?
I have one more thing with respect to the water line. I'm working with Bill Blank to nail down the exact figure that the Ohio Commerce Center needs to come up with the residual amount that they need to front for the share of the Warren relocated water line. And I guess that's being approved tonight with respect to J.S. Bova getting that contract. Our review of that contract was sent to you, so you have all of that. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Yep.
Okay, Special Reports, Police Chief Milhouse.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I've submitted my monthly report for April. I'll answer any questions if you have any. The only other thing I have is today CenturyLink was at our dispatch center training all of our dispatchers on the new 911 system that will be switched over tomorrow. We're anticipating a smooth transition, but just want to make you aware of that. So that's just the first part of the new equipment, the new CAD, and some other equipment will be coming in the future, but we will be starting with the new 911 answering system tomorrow. That's all I have.
Okay, any questions for Brent? Okay, Fire Chief Eastman.
No report.
Any questions for Travis? Okay, Works, Grounds, Building, Street Superintendent, Mr. Grimm.
No report this evening.
Any questions for Dale? Recreation, Marty.
I would just like to remind everybody to please mark the calendars. June 22nd is the fishing derby. If you'd like to make a donation, I'll be happy to take it, or if you know business that I haven't hit up that would like to make a donation, I would be happy to take that too.
Okay, any questions for Marty? Okay, any correspondence we have this evening, Bill?
No correspondence.
Okay, public remarks. After I acknowledge you, if you'd like to make a public remark, please come to the microphone and give your name and address so we can get it recorded in the minutes correctly. Public remarks? Hearing none, council remarks.
Mr. Mayor, where are we with the CIC?
I want to be calling a meeting here next week.
Okay.
And once I get that, then we're going to see. I got some paperwork from Mr. Dutton to review the rules, and once we get that going, we'll apply for title for the bus.
Oh, please.
Okay. Any other council remarks? Hearing none, committee reports, finance, Mr. Mansell.
Yes, Mayor, there's 9 pieces of legislation tonight from the Finance Committee. There's 4 of them I would like to see passed tonight, and then the 5 that are for the agricultural district, they'll just go for second reading.
Okay, thank you, John. Any questions for John? Okay, parks, buildings, grounds, general improvements, streets and sidewalks, Mr. Reader.
We just have one piece of legislation this evening, Mr. Mayor, that we would like passed. That's all.
Okay, any questions for Don? Public safety and welfare, Mr. Radka.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Let's just inform everyone our next meeting will be this Thursday, the 8th at 6:30. And just to bring everyone up to speed, that per conversation with Bruce, he's going to start our fire hydrant maintenance here at the beginning of June, and also work with the fire department again on it. So that'll be started. That's all I have.
Okay, any questions for Ron?
I would like to know, we were driving the other day and my husband said to me, "What's the little red tag on the fire hydrant mean?" Most of what we saw were blue, but some of them were red.
I don't know
Can you tell me
the
what
answer
those
for the
mean?
red ones.
The red ones are probably ones which are in need of a little bit of work. The blue ones are working fine, and I don't know if you have any other colors out there. Do you, Bruce?
Those are the only two colors that we have. The other thing that we do is if it's completely out of service, we put a bag over it so that there's no question about it, and we inform the fire department of that.
What's our status now? We still at one that needs replaced?
As of today, there are now two that need replaced. There's one on Tate Road that got hit on Friday, and we went to just redo the top of that one, and here it broke the entire barrel down into the ground, which we didn't see until. So we have the one on 45, and then the one on Tate Road there.
And 14 that still need TLC.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Public Utilities, Mr. Vaughn.
I have no report tonight other than what we discussed under the engineer's report.
Okay, any questions for Bob? Transportation and Recreational Senior Services, Mrs. Jones.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We published the guidelines for the use of the village bus in the newsletter so that everybody had exactly the same information on how it was being used, and there were some minor changes in what we did. We limited the scope of trips to 30 miles round trip because of the age of the bus and the condition of the bus, and we put an alcohol policy in there that there's not to be any alcohol on the bus, because we've had an issue with that in the past. And
those seniors just run us wild.
I'm telling you. And the other issue, the other thing that we added to the policy was that the riders are not to interfere with the driver while he's concentrating on getting them to their destination and back home again, because they want to go, well, let's stop here and let's stop there and let's do this, and they're constantly talking to him, and he needs to concentrate on his driving. So those are the only real things we changed. We did divide it up a little bit. We decided that anybody coming to the nutritional program here, that was our priority. And any of the seniors who want to be transported here to the service for the nutritional site at lunch can ride for free. And we don't care how many of them there are. We feel that that's a very important service to offer for our seniors who can't get out on their own. Other trips are scheduled trips, and there will be a deposit. If you're a Lordstown resident, you'll get your deposit back if you make the trip. And we are enforcing the 6-passenger policy. That's all I have to say.
Okay, any questions for Karen? Okay, Bill, if we got the first piece of legislation.
The Finance Committee for emergency passage. An ordinance authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement with Creative Microsystems, Inc. to provide the Village of Lordstown with updated data processing equipment, and also to provide professional services required for the installation, maintenance, support, and conversion of same, and declaring an emergency.
Comments or motions on this piece of legislation?
Motion to suspend the rules.
Motion to suspend the rules by Mansell, second.
Second.
Second by Shealy. Roll call, please.
Mr. Vaughn?
Yes.
Mr. Mansell?
Yes.
Mr. Reader?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Shealy?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carried to suspend the rules. There motion to adopt?
So moved.
Moved by Jones, second.
Second.
Second, Shealy. Comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Shealy?
Yes.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Reader?
Yes.
Mr. Mansell?
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carried to adopt. Ordinance 44, 2014. Next, please.
From Finance Committee for second reading. A resolution approving the application of Robert W. Pritchard Jr., resident of 1405 Tate Road, Southwest Warren, Ohio, 44481, for placement of farmland located at Tate Road in an agricultural district.
Comments or motions on this piece of legislation? Hearing none, I declare it's had its second reading. Next, please.
From Finance Committee for second reading. A resolution approving the application of Kibler Family Properties, LLC, at 5163 Highland Avenue, Warren, Ohio, 44481, for placement of farmland located at Salt Springs Road and Highland Extension in an agricultural district.
Comments or motions on this piece of legislation? Hearing none, I declare it's had its second reading. Next, please.
From Finance Committee for second reading. A resolution approving the application of Paul E. Quimby, resident of 1474 Ellsworth Bailey Road, Warren, Ohio, 44481, for placement of farmland located at Salt Springs Road in an agricultural district.
Comments or motions on this piece of legislation? Hearing none, I declare it's had its second reading. Next, please.
From Finance Committee for second reading. A resolution approving the application of Frances Ann Hall, resident of 5187 Highland Avenue, Southwest, Warren, Ohio, 44481, for placement of farmland located at Highland Avenue Southwest and Brunstetter Road in an agricultural district.
Comments or motions on this piece of legislation? Hearing none, I declare it's had its second reading. Next, please.
From Finance Committee for second reading. A resolution approving the application of Robert W. Pritchard Jr., resident of 1405 Tate Road, Southwest, Warren, Ohio, 44481, for placement of farmland located at Tate Road in an agricultural district.
Comments or motions on this piece of legislation? Hearing none, I declare it's had its second reading. Next, please.
From Finance Committee for emergency passage. An ordinance repealing ordinance number 34, 2014, authorizing the clerk to make the following transfer back from the Utility Deposit Trust Fund into the Utility Fund and declaring an emergency.
Comments or motions on this piece of legislation?
Move to suspend.
Move to suspend the rules by Jones, second.
Second.
Second by Mansell. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rader?
Yes.
Mr. Shealy?
Yes.
Mr. Mansell?
Yes.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Bond?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carried to suspend the rules. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Moved by Radka, second.
Second.
Second by Reader. Comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Mansell?
Yes.
Mr. Rader?
Yes.
Mr. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Shealy?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carried to adopt ordinance 45, 2014. Next, please.
From the Streets, Sidewalks, Public Parks, Buildings, Grounds, and General Improvements Committee for emergency passage. An ordinance authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement with CT Consultants, Inc. to provide engineering services for the lighting efficiency improvements for select village facility light fixtures and declaring an emergency.
Comments or motions on this piece of legislation?
Motion to suspend.
Motion to suspend the rules by Reader, second.
Second.
Second, Shealy. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Shealy?
Yes.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Reader?
Yes.
Mr. Mansell?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carried to suspend the rules. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Moved by Mansell, second by Bond. Comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rader?
Yes.
Mr. Mansell?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Shealy?
Yes.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carried to adopt ordinance 46, 2014. Next, please.
From Finance Committee for emergency passage. An ordinance authorizing the clerk of the Village of Lordstown to pay the sum of $37,770.36 to the Lordstown Board of Education pursuant to the income tax sharing agreement the Village of Lordstown has enacted with the Lordstown Board of Education to share income taxes generated from employees of Anderson & Bose, Inc. and declaring an emergency.
Comments or motions on this piece of legislation?
Motion to suspend the rules?
Motion to suspend the rules by Mansell, second.
Second.
Second by Radka. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Mansell?
Yes.
Mr. Rader?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Shealy?
Yes.
Mr. Radke?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carried to suspend the rules. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Moved by Jones, second.
Second.
Second, Shealy. Comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Shealy?
Yes.
Mr. Radke?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Rader?
Yes.
Mr. Mansell?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays. Motion carried to adopt ordinance 47, 2014. Next, please.
From Finance Committee for emergency passage. An ordinance authorizing the clerk of the Village of Lordstown to pay the sum of $31,857.16 to the Lordstown Board of Education pursuant to the income tax sharing agreement of the Village of Lordstown as enacted with the Lordstown Board of Education to share income taxes generated from new employees of the Interior/Magnum Seating of America, Inc., and declaring an emergency.
Comments or motions on this piece of legislation?
Move to suspend.
the rules.
Move to suspend the rules by Jones, second by Mansell. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bond?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Mansell?
Yes.
Mr. Radke?
Yes.
Mr. Reader?
Yes.
Mr. Shealy?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays, motion carried to suspend the rules. There a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Moved by Bond, second.
Second.
Second, Shealy. Comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Radke?
Yes.
Mr. Shealy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Mansell?
Yes.
Mr. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Reader?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays, motion carried to adopt ordinance 48, 2014. Next, please.
From council as a whole for emergency passage, an ordinance authorizing the village of Lordstown to settle a pending dispute with Jody's Development in connection with the East Side Sanitary Sewer Project and declaring an emergency.
Comments or motions on this piece of legislation?
Make a motion to suspend the rules.
Motion by Shealy to suspend the rules. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Radke. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Mansell?
Yes.
Mr. Reader?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Radke?
Yes.
Mr. Shealy?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays, motion carried to suspend the rules. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Moved by Radke, second Shealy. Comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bond?
Yes.
Mr. Mansell?
Yes.
Mr. Reader?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Radke?
Yes.
Mr. Shealy?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays, motion carried to adopt ordinance 49, 2014. Is there any old business council would like to bring up at this time? Hearing none, new business, I'll go first. Dale Grimm's recommended the following people for summer health positions: Matthew Thomas, John Tarchik, John Owankowicz, Gregory Free, and Stephen Gill. I'll entertain a motion to have those 5 put on for summer help.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Reader, second. Vaughn, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Recommended by Fire Chief Eastham, and I concur. Except taking Luke Mullins off for military leave. He's going to the Coast Guard. I'll entertain a motion to have him taken off the fire department.
So moved.
Moved by Radke, second.
Second.
Second, Shealy. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Also like to have Brooke Mullins and Tim Coleman appointed as junior firefighters. They've met all the requirements to become members of the department.
So moved.
Moved by Jones, second.
Second.
Second by Mansell. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Only thing I have is tomorrow's election day. I'd like to remind everybody to vote. Is there any other new business council would like to discuss at this time?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I sent an email around to everyone asking if we could discuss the summer schedule, because, that way we can maybe make some of our plans.
I know in the past, we've gone to one meeting in July and August. I know we've traditionally had 2 in June, but we did go down to 1 in July and August. I don't know how the rest of the council feels. I don't have a problem, looking at that. We try to make it the middle of the month, or you could probably make it the 3rd. Thank you. That's June. July would be either the 7th and the 21st. Now, the 14th, there may be a planning commission meeting, so we couldn't have that. Probably have one right in the middle of the month, July 15th. It'd be on a Tuesday, and knock the other 2 out.
On the 15th, did you say?
That work for you?
I can make it work.
Okay.
If it's there, I can make it.
Okay, and then August, this is subject to council. Yeah. Either the 12th or the 19th. Of course, then if we did need a special meeting, we can always call that. So maybe like August 19th and...
Well, our normal scheduled meeting would be August 18th.
Right.
you wanted to just leave that one on.
Okay, just leave that one off. Okay, we can leave that one off.
August
It's far enough. Is that far ahead, July and August, not know what business we have?
Well,
I can see June, I can't see how you can pick July and August this far ahead.
I know first and third Mondays always.
I have the budget.
You're right. You gotta have the budget to the county by the 15th of July. So we would have to have something there.
The only month I have a problem with is June, and I will be gone for about 3 weeks in June. And I will miss a meeting on the 16th. So, if there's things that are coming up that are going to need votes, I just want everybody to be aware of that. And I will be, and unfortunately, that trip was planned a year ago, and I can't very well change it now.
Karen, what date's in June?
I leave on the 10th, and I'll be back July 1st.
Okay.
And then in this month, a year ago, I scheduled a family vacation, so I will be gone the 19th. I'll be gone that week.
That next council meeting?
Yeah, next meeting.
Well, we have 5 of them, we'll be all right.
But, I just want you guys to be aware of that because of the, I don't know what's coming up for votes and stuff, and I don't want to put the council in a bind. I just want you to be aware of those
I don't
kinds of
think anybody up here, I don't think there's any issues with anybody up here where
Okay.
they couldn't vote on anything like we had last year.
Yeah, I don't want to put everybody in that situation where we have to wait
Well, if you're
another
about 2 weeks
meeting or
in June,
something.
it's not going to matter for June, because we can't just have one anyway, like
Yeah,
earlier than the 10th anyway. So that
yeah.
won't
Well,
matter.
I'll be here for the June the 2nd meeting if you have that.
Okay.
But then I will miss on the 16th.
And then usually on the last meeting in June, you pick July. and
We
see
usually
July
do,
for August.
and we will have to have something, the bill has to have the proposed budget for next year to the county by July 15th.
June.
Or
Or
July
yeah,
15th.
July.
And that way they have to take action on that by the 20th.
Well, I should be around the whole month of July and August, but that's not a problem.
Well, why don't we keep it going until the first meeting, and then if we can after that, I've, in department head meetings, I've told the department heads, try to get all your purchases and everything else going on out of the way earlier in the year, so that way we know what's going on. Hopefully that helps us out so we can take some time off in July or August. If we have to be here, I don't have any problem with that, but if we can, go down to one meeting.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, we have to have something by the 15th. Oh, we have to have that, we have to have a budget by the 15th.
Oh, I noticed your eyes just got big when I thought one meeting June, July, and August.
That's right.
You kind of like that.
Is there any other new business at this time? Are there any additional public remarks? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Reader, second. Second, Shealy, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, meeting adjourned.
You're like kidding me.